Welcome to 4 Stories, Dublin. Today we're going to be reviewing Conversation with a Killer, the Gacy Tapes. Paul here, Dean here, and George. Do you want to put George back? Right. Now, this was a fantastic documentary in my opinion.
It's something I wasn't expecting. After you watch, if you watch the dahmer, the Monster series, and then you go and watch the Gacy Tapes,
you just thought he was a complete and utter monster, and there was no good in the man. Was the impression you got?
He was worse than Dahmer.
Yes. Again, a lot what happened with Dahmer happened with Gacy. In that he should have been stopped much earlier.
But he had too much power.
There was indications. Now, Gacy's downfall was he started getting lazy. He went and picking his victims.
Yes.
So it came down to Rob Peast. And when he disappeared, that kicked off all the investigations.
He was the main person of concern of the people that went missing.
Yes, because Gacy did take advantage that people. It's similar to Dahmer, that there was a gay culture, but the gay culture had to be hidden.
Yeah.
So when people disappeared, they'd fallen out, they'd use different names, they're trying to contact with their family, and Gacy used this against them. Now, the weird thing about Gacy was, sometimes he killed them, sometimes he wouldn't. Do you know that way?
It's weird.
He didn't have a particular MO. Now, he was terrifying, and this documentary starts that while Gacy was waiting trial for murder, he was interviewed and recorded in 1979, November to April 1980, by a member of his legal team. His member of his legal team is asked to be anonymous.
Yes.
Understandably why. And I have all respect for the people that actually sat down with him and did this, because they wanted to find out why this happened.
They needed to get into the money.
And how this didn't happen, how this could be stopped again. And the thing that for me really summarised this documentary was, there was a great song by Christy Moore, "They Never Came Home." And that's what I feel about his victims.
Yes.
So do you want to start it off about Gacy, where his beginnings?
Well, with his beginning, he had so much power. He knew so many people. He ran his own little company.
He did.
But
he remembered his first wife. He ran a KFC.
Because of the father-in-law.
He
ran the KFC because of the father-in-law, right. Yes.
And again, this was a thing he used to gain access to people.
That's actually how he got most of his victims, is through his own workplace.
Which is set up as MO later on. Like, Gacy was terrifying. He was a politician, he was a builder, and he was a clown. And it's very hard to look at them images. I have his name here, Pogo the Clown.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And he just looked terrifying.
It was a weird fetish.
And I remember one of the things about him, he said, as a clown, he said to, he used to do the Polish parades. He would use anything he could to gain access, to either empower himself or find his victims.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he used clowns, his house had nothing but clowns, or else clowns can get away with anything, even murder. So the warning signs were here on this man for years.
The house alone, when you see in the tapes, it's frightening. It is, it's frightening, because the pictures on the walls of all the clowns and stuff, that'll just put a little mental image in your head, as if and the clowns don't look pretty nice in it. They all look pretty dark.
No.
And that already give you a feel of as if what am I doing here? What's going on here?
Well, we see a video of a lad that was actually, he's not a lad now, but when he was younger, he was trapped by Gacy.
He was. Yeah, I remember
this. He got away. And the pain of that man to speak about the experience. Now, there was another victim. He got jailed he basically raped a 15-year-old hitchhiker. This is what I'm saying. He took advantage of people on the outskirts of society. We see this with Dahmer. Dahmer used drug addicts, people of colour, you know, gay men, Native Americans, Latino, people that the police wouldn't investigate, you know, that way. Like, he got jailed in 1968 for sodomy, right? That was the charge they could get on him. He did 18 months. He was meant to do 10 years. He went in scared. Now we see his father, his relationship with his father had him twisted.
Yes.
And his mother. They were... I don't know if Gacy was ever going to be right, but his mother and father didn't help. The father berated him constantly.
Constantly belittled him.
He was a sissy, the father used to say. He would... And the mother used to make him wear her underwear as punishment. So they were very strange. And she was actually the softer of the two.
And that'll take it as a young kid, or as a young adult even, or whatever. That'll take a huge effect in your life, you know, and just the whole aspect on life.
He was never enough. He was never enough of a man. Never enough.
That's how he's seen it. That's how he's seen himself. You know, I'm not a man, so what am I?
Yeah. And when he was in prison, he started running the kitchen. And there was all sorts of crazy people there. And the thing with him was, he dominated that kitchen.
He used to poison people.
He used to poison people. So basically, if you done him over, he'd make sure your food was wrong.
Yeah, and you're dead.
Put the lad that was in it. And because of it, but the thing was, he was very good at organising. He helped people, he got better conditions. He really, for me, stood the point that be careful of who wants to help you. They may want to rule you. You know, he got out with the gleaming record out of prison.
Yeah.
Because of all the good things he did. What did he do? Did he get them a playground or something? He built something, or he did something in the prison. He got them facilities. Now, one of the things that happened in that prison was his father died. And I think his father dying in that prison meant they never got to have peace with each other. And the mate of his in prison, but even he knew Gacy was capable of great potential, but was also a very nasty person. He said when the father died, that changed him. And after that, he became horrible.
Much worse.
They were joined, in the prison he joined like a Democratic Party group. And that was what he did. And he used the Democratic Party to abuse people. Now people talk about this stuff happening. This is no different than what we've seen with Savile and the royal family. People that want to abuse, getting into positions of power, you know. So you brought something up there, is like by that time, he kind of, 73, he had PDM contractors, he had his politics, and he had his sideline and the clown.
Yeah.
And that's where he used to target men. One of the things going back to the prison was, the lad said, respect is not demanded, command respect. And that's what he wanted all the time. You know that way?
And as we said, you didn't respect him. You need to remember, he was in charge of the kitchen.
Yeah, and you have to watch your back.
So if you didn't give him respect, you didn't do what he asked of you, or anything negative towards his mind frame, not even in general, just towards his mind frame, you were dead.
And the thing with him was, he used politics the same way. He was getting photos with Jimmy Carter's wife.
Yes.
So when he did anything to his victims, he'd organise drink-ups, he'd try it on with young fellas, and he'd say something. He'd say, I'm only joking. And we learned of this game with the handcuffs earlier. And stuff like that. But he'd use that against his victims. Look how powerful I am. I know loads of people in Chicago. You can't touch me. You know? And he eventually got caught. Now, unfortunately, there was 26 people in his crawl space, and he killed at least 33 men. Now, I'm not one for police normally, but I have to say the police involved in this investigation, you can only respect them, can't you?
Yes.
For what they had to go through.
Crawling under the house, having to pull, I wouldn't even say pull, even dig. They had to dig through all that rubble just to get some of the bodies. And
there was no CSI clothing, it was like before this.
Straight up, and even at that, like, you'd know advanced technology.
Yeah.
So, and some of these victims were just bones left. So, when they said the only way they were able to identify them was their teeth.
Yes.
So,
and they haven't not discovered all his victims yet.
No.
And we know he ran out of space in the house.
And where did he start throwing them?
In the river.
What bridge?
I forget the bridge.
I forget the name of the bridge. But there was a bridge anyway.
Yeah.
And he used to throw them off the bridge. He kind of gave them a hint in one of his tapes.
When this was happening and allegations were going against him, people didn't want to believe it because he was considered such a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, we reckon his fourth, they say, but he then got drunk with his lawyers and they found out about the previous sexual charge on him.
Came out and told them everything.
And he got drunk and told them anything. And his first murder was 72 and he targeted a young gay man. He says your man tried to attack him and then he didn't mean to kill him, but he tried to attack him and he had to kill him. I don't know if it was a thing of his closeted behaviour that he wanted to kill them so word wouldn't get out that he was a homosexual.
Yeah. Well, even at that, he always said, "I'm not gay." It was just for the sex, like, in a sense, what he said. That's what he wanted. You know, he didn't class himself as gay. He just wanted sex, like.
He was a massive controlling person,
Yes.
wasn't he? Every person he involved, he controlled. He wanted to control. Now the gas thing is, in his life, he did do good acts, but his good acts were always...
the cover up is
the reasoning. Now, through PDM contractors, that's where he targeted a lot of people.
a lot of the young workers. That was because it was his company. He was always employing young adults, like 17, 18, 19, and with that,
thin and blonde.
and with that, that's how he got hold of most of his victims.
Yes.
He'd bring them back to the house sometimes, or wherever it was, and you wouldn't see them again. And some people didn't even register the fact that this person's gone missing.
Yes, because he did pick, as I said, by the time he got to Robert's Piece, and the cops found Robert Piece first. They found him. They wanted to get his family a body.
Yes.
Which I thought was very admirable. But one of the reasons, and it comes back to Dahmer, is people did not investigate runaways and missing people.
Yeah.
Someone ran away, you know what I mean?
They'd be back in the morning.
They'd be back in the morning. Then maybe they've lost their head, they've gone to another town. And when he actually got into the court, and he tried to control his lawyers. So he had a lawyer that did not want to represent him, that he'd given the confession.
He had to.
But he felt he had to make sure that this man never escaped.
Yeah.
Do you know that way? And as I said, he wanted to constantly control everything. And the people that had to deal with him, my God, they like the lawyer said, I was representing him. Everybody hated me, but I wanted to make sure. He said, I didn't want them to get the death penalty. I didn't believe that was right. I wanted him locked up for the rest of his life. To suffer. And it's actually disgraceful what happened. And the way he used power and politics and money and business to target people was horrific. As I said, it always goes back to what we've seen in Dahmer and other cases. The warning signs were here all the time.
Oh, big time. And no one wanted to pay attention to it because, as you said, the whole thing with the politics, the money. He was such a great guy, turned up to all the great events, got on with the right people. They always seen him as a gentleman, they always seen him as a good guy.
He was a great neighbour. You know, he'd lend you a tool, he'd do this.
Do you know what I mean?
He married the second wife, he looked after the kids, he was always seen to be producing this front, and then there was him.
Yeah.
And he died through execution.
Yeah.
But when he went out, he did not. He went off telling them where to go, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did not feel wrong. That was the one thing about Dahmer. Dahmer knew there was something wrong with him, and what he did was wrong.
Yeah. And wanted to try to fix himself.
But this
Gacy knew what he done, and he was happy doing what he was doing, and he wanted to continue doing what he was doing.
And I was mad listening to him, like saying they brought him up. Now he didn't remember the next day. He starts out having a drink, and he literally goes, in 1972 I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And his memory of them, and he didn't feel bad for them at all.
No. There was like another day in life.
Another day in a life. And like it's a horrific documentary, but I felt it was a good documentary.
Some of the tapes that you heard that had never been heard before, and listening to his voice, listening to some of the things he's saying, you know yourself you wouldn't want to be put in the shoes of the interviewer.
No. But there was people, as I said, the lawyer was a case of this, that felt they wanted to make sure, because he was afraid he was going to get out early, sweet talk a judge.
Yeah.
So there was people that had to deal with him, but they kind of had to.
They did, yeah.
They didn't want to,
but they
did it for the greater good.
They dealt with him to get him done.
Yes.
You know, as you said, the lawyer didn't want to be there, but the only reason he stayed with him is to make sure he'd never get back out again. And technically he never got back out again. He died,
No,
he got killed.
no.
So regardless, he was either going to get life in prison. Now, if it came to that stage, would he have gotten out early? We'll never know, but it's a possibility.
Because he was throwing shade at them. He was saying, oh, this fellow was a drug addict, he just tried to attack me, it was a self-defense, this was this. And when they looked into it, it wasn't the case. And unfortunately for them people, their last moments must have absolutely been terrifying. And we only got a glimpse of that. We don't see that in the tapes. We saw that in Dahmer Monster. But that was terrifying.
But with the tapes, you had one victim that it gave into a hell of a lot of detail about him staying over one night.
That was horrific, yeah.
You know, and you feel sorry for some of the victims, and well done.
And bravery for sitting in front of that camera and telling the story.
Well done.
I hope that took something off.
Took a lot of weight off
his chest.
He can move on with his life, and
yeah,
knowing that what he said is what has been said.
And when we think of the victims as well, okay, it was terrible, but what about the victims' families? What about the people that knew them?
Hundreds of victim families. Like you have the victims, but then you have the victim families and
the brothers, the sisters, the mothers.
There's hundreds of them now. Absolutely hundreds of them. And he never gave a shit.
And to this day they have not identified everybody.
No. They can't. The technology, and then by the time the technology came along, most of the bones were already like rotted away and decaying.
And they also didn't have records back then like they do now of things.
Like as I mentioned, the only way they were able to really identify someone, well, because of the situation that Gacy had done.
But they had to have access to dental records.
Exactly. And if some of them never went to a dentist, they wouldn't. They wouldn't have been able to.
And it creates, when you look into that time period, why serial killers existed like they did, was that the police weren't tied up with each other. You could do something in one state, start a new life somewhere else.
Yeah. And
unless you got in trouble again,
you wouldn't have been found.
And as I said, I thought it was great. It was a great documentary. It was very interesting. I didn't think I'd feel, after I watched Dahmer, I'd feel anything human towards him. But even then, I do feel like his human front was a front.
Yes.
There was something in him just
that was willing to change.
Yeah.
Like Dahmer was willing to change, and then you look at Gacy, and Gacy had no remorse. No. He enjoyed it.
He was a control freak. Even in the court, he was trying to control everything. Yeah. He wanted to the world was a better place when he was gone. And unfortunately, if he'd done the 10 years, I don't think that this would have happened to these people.
It wouldn't have gotten that far.
No. So, how would you rate the programme as a documentary?
I'll give it an 8.
You give it 8. Why are you taking 8? Why you take the 2?
It does go into its detail. It does go into its detail, and it's good to see. And you hear all the police that
to hear his voice is terrifying as well, isn't it? Knowing what he's done.
When he's talking, it's not just his voice, but it's the manner of him talking. He doesn't care. He doesn't care, and he feels no remorse. He doesn't want to help them, but he still tells them everything anyway, because what can they do? He's done what he's done. He's happy after doing what he's doing. That's what he wanted.
Yeah. For me now, this was a 10 out of 10, because they're making out he was 1 in a million that did this. Unfortunately, I think his MO happens in many places.
It does.
And it's the same thing, as I said. If you imagine a victim spoke and he goes, hang on, here's me in a picture with the president's wife. Who are they going to believe? You or me?
Yeah.
And I thought that was he was an evil person. But I have to say, I'll probably give this, a 9 out of 10. And I will see what other content we'll do. But you keep seeing the same stuff happen again and again. I'd like to end the video on saying a big thank you to Saza, who actually asked for this when we did the Dahmer Monster.
She did indeed.
So we are trying to deliver on our promises. If you give us a suggestion within reason, we will give it. We will try.
Not a chance.
So if you could like and subscribe the channel, follow us on Instagram.
Thanks
4
again for the
Stories
support.
Dublin. Thanks for the support. Best of luck. Bye.
Cheers.